Welcome to the Unscripted Woman podcast, the show for women who are done living by the rules and ready to reinvent their lives from the inside out. If you're ready to design your next chapter on your own damn terms, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Unscripted Woman podcast. I am Kelly Kingsland. I am your host, and it is my absolute delight to have Dr. Kelly Barron with me. We had a little conversation before we decided to do this together, and oh my gosh, so much fun stuff that we're going to be talking about. So, Dr. Kelly Barron is the founder of Tempesta and Dr. Calfire, and she is redefining what it means to thrive as a woman in midlife. Her journey is forged in fire. Surviving a violent assault, Dr. Barron rose stronger, channeling her pain into purpose. From breaking world records in powerlifting, wow, to competing on American Ninja Warrior, which we're going to have to talk about, and fighting in the MMA, she is rewriting the rules of menopause and women's sexuality with bold, unapologetic care. She is a chiropractor, licensed acupuncturist, certified menopause specialist, and Sexual Health Alliance coaching candidate. Dr. Barron fuses cutting edge science with alternative healthcare to create real, transformative results. Her mission is to empower women to own their bodies, break the mold, and unleash their fire. I love that. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for having me on. It is my pleasure to be able to talk with you today. And also, you have the most soothing voice out there. I was lulled by your voice.
Well, thank you. It comes in handy when I'm hypnotizing people.
Yes.
Anyways, so there's so much I want to talk about because everything is just so relevant to women of our age group. And we're the ones who seem to just be kind of paving the way for everybody else and breaking down the barriers. So I want to get into all of this. Now, I know you're a chiropractor and you are very much into alternative health with a wellness platform and all of that. But first, I have to ask, you had a violent assault, and then you use that to kind of catapult you into where you are now. Can you share with us your kind of like your origin story?
Yes. There are like many, many, many women, and I should say people in general out there. Unfortunately, trauma, assault, sexual assaults are not uncommon.
Hmm.
And that's very sad. Of course, was a young 21-year-old woman and never thought that, that would happen to me. Anything like that would happen to me. And unfortunately, I was a victim of an assault, a physical assault. And the the trauma that transpired from that wasn't just that straightforward trauma. It went from surviving a physical abuse of a prominent person in society that is so prominent at the time that the police decided the report went missing. And so charges were never filed. Um, and this man still walks around. And then from there, that particular night, because of that scenario, the police, which I didn't realized so young and so in shock at the time. They never put the man in handcuffs. They just sat him in the back of a car, and their way of dealing with me was to say to the two gentlemen who happened to be co-workers that were able to stop the attack. They said, "Why don't you go take her for a drink?" They didn't ask, "Do I need an ambulance?" I was bloody. I was everything. "Why don't you go take her for a drink and calm her down?" And I didn't even think anything of that. I was just so shocked. And unfortunately, I got in my car and said, "No, I'm going to go home." And it was 3 in the morning at this point, and my car broke down on the side of the highway. So bloodied, tattered, I had to run through the woods and find and knock on four doors, four houses. And can you imagine? And no cell phones at that time. So if you can imagine people, nobody was answering their door. Someone finally answered their door and threw a phone on a cord. That's how old this is, out to me. And they stood inside and dialed on the wall. And I
Hmm.
was able to reach my then boyfriend, to come pick me up. And drove home, and the next morning found out there was no police report, that it never happened. So that was just a series of, like a movie. If I
Hmm.
went like the whole story, you would go, that no, that's a movie, that's not real. And I think what I did originally was compartmentalize that and shield
Hmm.
myself and go numb and say that none of that happened. And then slowly, um, I started to realize that I was allowing myself to forget the situation and to try to just move on, because I didn't feel, because it was a physical assault, I didn't feel like I had the right. It wasn't a sexual assault. I didn't have the right to talk about that. I didn't have the right to feel like a victim. I didn't have a right to talk about it. It wasn't bad enough in my mind. So I went about 10 years, just the things that it did to me, subconsciously, was that I couldn't really be alone in any kind of, like, a parking lot or something at dusk or night, where I was in the public, but not necessarily surrounded by people. Um, and if I was alone at night, I would stay up till sunrose because I would not go to sleep. And those were just kind of the things that just happened to me. Even when I was out in public with people, my head was always spinning, like, what's going to happen? Where is this going to come from? And I didn't personally realize what was going on with me. It was, my husband, who was my boyfriend during the attack, who said to me one day, Kelly, you're you're always afraid. I'm afraid you're not going to be able to defend yourself. We had then now had three young children, and he said, I need you to be able to defend yourself and take care of your children. And he, found someone to come to the house and teach us real self-defense, like brutal self-defense. And it was in that first session that my brain clicked. And I felt somewhat powerful in that moment. And I thought, why have I allowed myself to cower? And why have I compartmentalized this? And why have I just pretended it didn't happen and let it affect my life? Kept me very, introverted, if you will. And from that moment forward, I said, no more. This is not going to happen anymore. I'm going to go after this demon that lives inside my brain, and I am going to own my life. So from there, all these events occurred from that, from simply saying this isn't going to happen anymore. And the very first step I took towards that after starting self-defense was to fight MMA, at age 38. No
Wow.
business getting into a ring, no business getting into it at age 38. But I was in Colorado. MMA was just coming out. The UFC was brand new. There were very few females fighting. And I was lucky enough that a promoter gave me a chance to take a fight. And that was my way of putting myself into a very uncomfortable position and get comfortable with it. So I decided to put myself back into what my trauma was, to put myself into a violent situation. Now, yes, it was a sport and there's rules and things like
Hmm.
that, but I had to have that feeling. And win or lose, I had to be able to defend myself and know that that was possible. And that's from there, the journey just rolled. And um, I took four fights till the age of 42. And that's when I realized that you can't go into the bank or you can't go to the grocery store with three young children with a black eye, and people don't automatically assume she's being abused at home. So I ended my career in MMA because of that. But it was probably the best thing I ever did, was force myself to do something that I was so deathly afraid of.
Hmm. Wow. Good for you. Good for you. It's almost like confronting it while learning how to deal with it all at once, right? Like by putting yourself in that situation, you're triggering every fight or flight response that you have
Every.
and making yourself work through it.
I will say that with just the fight alone, I um when I was training with a gentleman, his name was Jack, and he trained under Bruce Lee's mentor. This was a man who was integrative threat response, so very different from just general self-defense. And he was a very kind soul. It didn't trigger a lot with him. And I worked one-on-one with him. It was more like, okay, I'm learning things. The first fight, when they closed that cage door, and I'm looking across at a girl who was half my age. And she picks her head up and looks at me, and I swear she was frothing. I don't know what was going on, but I just stared. And then I looked over at the door and I thought, okay, I just want to go now. This was great. Glad we got this part here, but I'm going to go. And then they went, fight. And I went, oh, what? And she came right out the gate and punched me right in the face, cut me right away. And I just stood there and I was like, oh, did she just hit me? And then I was like, then it all started to come in. And then it
Yeah.
was, oh, wow, the triggers, this, but you're also
Mhm.
dealing with adrenaline. But yeah, I was thoroughly annoyed for a split second that she actually hit me. And then the fight or flight started and
Mm.
going back into that situation.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So this is obviously going to lead into my next question. American Ninja Warrior. Was that before or after?
No, that was after. So MMA came and went, couldn't have the face beat up anymore. I went from MMA to jiu-jitsu because I was already practicing and training that. And I started to compete in jiu-jitsu. Not a lot that's going to hurt you there. And I thought this will be my calling and still keeping me very uncomfortable, but it's a little bit safer. And we got a call at the MMA jiu-jitsu training facility. And it was also a CrossFit. And it's the same place I've been training at. And a casting agent called over and said, "Do you have any females that would want to try out for American Ninja Warrior? We are actually filming season 4, one of the auditions." So before the final one, we're doing season 4, whatever they called it, part A in Denver. And if you have anybody, please let us know. Have them contact us. So I was looking for that next thing to scare me. And, I'm not, public speaking scares me. Doing anything in front of an audience scares me. And I thought, okay, that would really scare me. I'm not a gymnast. I don't do parkour. And there'd be crowds. Okay, I'll do it. So I contacted the casting agent, sent over an audition tape. They immediately, called me back. I was surprised because I was like, oh, I'm in my 40s. I'm not a gymnast. What could they possibly want with me? But apparently, my backstory, they liked the backstory.
Mm.
So um, I went, and I remember it was in May. It was 33 degrees in Denver that night, and they do it at night. And they filmed me the next day because they thought I was gonna make it through the whole way. They had such high hopes for me. So they did a backstory with me, a whole interview. They brought my family in and the kids, they gave them signs, and you could just see the hope in their eyes. And we get there at 7 o'clock at night is when they had the first run through. And I'm standing there with 20-year-old gymnasts, and I'm holding them because the kerosene lamps went out. We were all freezing. I'm like the mother over there. I'm like, oh, come here, kids. And they're just laughing. Come over here. And not till 11 o'clock did they start us. We just stood outside for 4 hours in the freezing cold. And I was number 15. They gave me like 5 minutes to let me know I was up next. And so like you strip off your sweats and you have a tank top and shorts on and it's 33 degrees. You've not
Mm.
warmed up, nothing. And I was deathly afraid and there's people everywhere and they say, go. And I just started running. And the very first quad steps that was like the first obstacle. I just started going. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. And I got to the last one and I landed wrong. I landed very low on the step. And then you had to jump and grab a wall and climb up. I jumped. My nails hit like an inch below the ledge. And you
Oh,
just saw my nails. And I just went down the wall into freezing cold water. And
oh,
and then the camera's right there, and I'm coming out of the water. I'm like, this couldn't have been any more embarrassing if I tried. And there goes their high hopes. And I do think I made the blooper reel on YouTube for that season. I'm pretty sure I made the blooper reel. But that again it was a super fun experience. I definitely was outside of my comfort zone, definitely made me um, face something that I truly did not want to do. I was scared to do. And it was a really fun experience.
I can't believe that they had you doing this obstacle course in the cold without an opportunity to warm up your muscles.
Yep, they just gave us 5 minutes. They were like, okay, you're on in five, stand by. And you just kind of walked over to this corral and you just started like shaking out your legs. And you're like, oh no.
Oh my goodness. I'm
And,
surprised more people don't get injured.
I know. Well, and at 40 something, I mean, we're talking tin can man syndrome here. Like, I got to get oil out for the joints. I'm not like the 20-year-olds. I was like, oh, what am I going to do?
Oh, that's awesome. And now I'm going to have to look up the reel.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so that's the fun part. Um, so I want to talk about what you do now. So you are a great proponent for alternative health,
Yes.
and you have started a platform. You've done all this. So share with everybody, how did you go from MMA and American Ninja Warrior to chiropractic and alternative health?
So I graduated in 1998 from chiropractic school with my husband had also we've gone to school together, classes together. Do not recommend, but we were together all the time. And so we had opened a chiropractic practice in Denver. But I immediately started having children. In that world, I couldn't get a job as an associate with another chiropractor. It was very hard because I was female and it wasn't really accepted at that time. And I don't want to say accepted, but we were looked at as the weaker, we couldn't possibly adjust, this, that, and the other thing. So we decided to start a family. And I went on for, you know, probably 10 years just running the business from home, the business end of it, not actively practicing, raising the children and going through this whole MMA, that was all part of it then. And I started teaching for a midwifery school online so I could raise my children and do work from home. And it allowed me to put my degree to use in terms of I taught sexual health, I taught prenatal nutrition, fitness, things like that. And that's kind of where it started. And I really thought that was my calling, that I was going to work with pre and postpartum women and during their pregnancies. But as I grew and as I got older and grew through my career, the boys eventually were in school now, and I started working with women. I went into practice, but I primarily stayed with acupuncture, soft tissue, and I started training women, strength training and nutrition because I really, that was my passion, along with women that were coming out of pregnancy and were postpartum. And I stayed in that area for quite some time. And then as I'm aging, my client base is aging, and we're all sort of having these same conversations. And fibromyalgia was the big term then. And everybody was saying, maybe I have fibromyalgia. I don't know what's wrong with me. My emotions are all over the place. My joints hurt. My hair is falling out. And nobody really knew. Our doctors didn't have the answers.
Mhm.
For the most part, everyone was like, you're fine, or maybe you need a pill, or um, it's just, it's hormones, but they didn't really know what they were saying when they said that. it's
Hmm.
PMS or it's this or that, or and then it grew into it's empty nest syndrome and you're sad. And I watched this, but I didn't really talk to women about their journeys. You'd hear a symptom here or there. And I started to do research on it and really dig into what does it mean to come through, your 30s, to get your children to fly, if you will, leave the nest, come into your 40s. Where are we really as women at that point? Because my mother never told me, my grandmother never told me, and I was the eldest daughter. So I didn't have a sister to tell me what was going to happen. And I found it both sad and fascinating at the same time. Sad that we as women didn't talk about it, didn't really know about it, and no one was giving us answers, and fascinated by what was happening to our bodies. Um, and that is when I decided to pursue a menopause specialist certification and really start to hone in and work with women in midlife. I just could not believe that we assumed, we go through this and nobody tells us. And so we think, okay, we go from having children or a career or or your partnership, whatever it is that you've just nurtured and given your all to. And now either your career is winding down or your children have left the nest. And so many women were just staring around going, what's my purpose? And on
Hmm.
top of that, what is happening to my body? And then accepting that, oh, this is what it is. We peaked and now the rest of our lives is this. And that's so common.
Hmm.
And I didn't want to go out like that. I thought, and I really feel it stems from the trauma, that mentality of, oh, I don't ever want to be a victim of something. And I'm not going to be a victim of my body, and I'm not going to be a victim of my age either. So I want to go out and live life, and there's so much life left to live. And that's when I decided women need to do this. Women need to jump on board this movement. And Tempesta was born. And Tempesta is the Italian word for storm. And I felt like this time in your life is a storm. But with some storms, they're beautiful. A good
Hmm.
thunderstorm, it's beautiful. It's not optimal, but it's beautiful. And I wanted women to start to see that about themselves, about their lives, about what they're going through.
Right. Wow. So I know I had mentioned to you when we were chatting originally, I work with women that are going through menopause as well. And it never fails to fascinate me how differently it can present in individuals.
Yes.
There's no two ever the same.
Mm-mm.
No two solutions are the same.
None.
So tell me about your practice. You're working with these women. Are you focusing on hormone balancing or more of the working through the physical ailments without the hormone adjustment? Because there's a lot of bit back and forth on HRT.
Correct. Correct. So first and foremost, I like my first approach is to sit and listen to this woman's story. You know, we all love to tell our birth stories, and we won't stop telling our birth stories. And there's always like the end of your birth story is this beautiful like ending. You got this beautiful gift, this child. But women like to tell their stories. With menopause, we're somewhat ashamed or embarrassed. We don't, the things that we want to talk about, we also don't want to utter. Nobody, it's not freely talked about, but it's their story. And there's no beautiful ending to it in everyone's mind. So they keep that story inside. So I like to hear the story. What is going on? What are you experiencing? And go right for mindset first. Like, let's figure out what it is, what bothers you, what's embarrassed, what do you feel shameful of, what is your attitude about this, and then branch out because there are a lot of things, a lot of symptoms that either are presented because of our mindset or are exacerbated because of our mindset. So you first want to kind of shore that up, give hope, give them the knowledge they have a place to talk freely and safely. No topic is off, no symptom, no topic is off the table. I've heard it all, hit me with it all. And once you get through that, then I give women choice. I firmly believe in choice, even though I'm an alternative practitioner. If a woman has first tried to do non-conventional methods for her symptoms, and they are not working, absolutely, I'm going to refer you out and say hormones might be the appropriate course for you. I
Hmm.
like them to first try to work on diet, nutrition, sleep hygiene, stress, managing their stress, and see where they get with that. But like you said, everybody's different. What works
Hmm.
for this person isn't going to work for this person. Maybe it's a combo. Maybe hormone therapy, and we work on as a chiropractor, we'll work on your spine and your nervous system. Then we'll look at your lifestyle and your nutrition. But I firmly believe educate yourself. And if it's a choice that you are willing to make or that it seems like might be the appropriate course for you, I think women deserve a network of providers.
Hmm.
So you may come to me for the alternative version and you may have your OBGYN and you're going to work on hormones over there. You might have like hypnotism. And then you might have someone like you, Kelly, that I say, okay, now let's go over there. Let's work through whatever's sitting deep in there that you don't want to bring out.
Hmm.
That is, in my opinion, the best form of care for women. And so that's kind of what I tried to do with Tempesta is to bring women into a community where we could hear their voice, we can educate them, we can give them options, and we can also refer out and create this network for them. And I hope that this version of healthcare stays for women. It has to stay for women.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think I'm glad that you focus on the education part because I've talked to women who don't realize that there's regular HRT, but there's also bioidentical HRT, which is
Yes,
synthetic and doesn't come with some of the dangers and side effects of the real. Like we really just aren't told unless we go onto Google and look for it ourselves and try and understand the medical terms.
right.
A lot of women don't know what's out there. They don't know there's bioidentical. They don't know that there is herbs that can help with all of that. They don't know hypnotherapy, mindset work, all of the chiropractic adjustments. I
Hmm.
mean, I remember when I was pregnant with my youngest, I saw a chiropractor constantly and like weekly for the last couple months, just to make sure that everything was in line to
Yep.
allow the delivery to be as easy as possible. He offered to be in the delivery room with me and adjust me throughout. And I had midwives, you know.
So did I.
Yeah.
Love midwives.
Oh, they're so much better. It's
Yes.
so much more natural and like the baby isn't torn away from you right away. And
Oh,
it's just amazing. But there's so many things that chiropractic and alternative can help with, and so many people that have the mindset of, oh, that's just all woo-woo garbage. That doesn't help anything. Like they're so medical model based.
right.
So
And yeah,
go ahead,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
So I was just curious, when you're working with someone and you're doing your initial consultation, do you find that occasionally you'll get pushback on the alternative recommendations that you're giving?
Oh, absolutely. Because again, like you said, you Google, or now that we're starting to talk about menopause very freely. I mean, I'm so grateful that so many women like yourself, and doctors, female doctors have come out and now they're mainstreaming menopause and perimenopause. So that is so good for us. There's still a lot of work to be done. But
Mhm.
you have women now that through their Instagram feed is 57 different options for menopause, and then they're Googling and their best friend. And so I will get, I'll get, we'll call her Susie, will come in and we'll look at things and I'll say, from what you're presenting with, we really should try a non-medical approach first, I think, and then, see how it does. And then we can always move to a medical model. And she'll be like, well, Betty, her best friend, no, Betty's on hormones. I got to be on hormones. And so you get that pushback, like, yes, it's great that you're saying this, but no, I just want to go straight to the hormones.
Hmm.
Or I need this with a combo of GLP-1 and I need, and then my antidepressant, and they're just because someone else is doing it or social media is telling them this is the way, they will push
Hmm.
back. It's not that often, or if you can at least piece in, say why and start to
Hmm.
educate them a little bit and ask, well, why do you feel that way? Why do you feel for you that is? And then you can typically form a path of, all right, let's refer you to a provider, and then let's also look at what you could be doing to support that. And that's usually how we'll mix that in. But pushback, yes, there is pushback.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't surprise me.
Then there's pushback a lot with GSM, genital urinary syndrome of menopause, because that is really the most taboo of everything, is
Hmm.
talking about any sort of problem down there, we'll say, and low libido. Women
Hmm.
just don't, and understandably, there could be pain, there could be, you know, um, lack of desire. There's quite a few things, and they think hormones. Let me go on hormones, and
Hmm.
let me get some testosterone. Let me do this, that, or the other thing. And that particular area is where practitioners like yourself and I would are much better served in that area, because the only thing you would probably prescribe um, would be vaginal estrogen cream.
Hmm.
And then there is DHEA, but very low level medical intervention for any of those. And then it's more lifestyle, it's breathing, it's getting in touch with your feminine, what
Hmm.
blocks do you have in your mind? And that's where that like you can really work with a woman on a very natural path.
Yeah. I know from the people that I've worked with and even friends and colleagues and stuff, we're all quite open about our experiences with what's going on because, menopause is the one thing everybody has in common.
Yeah,
There's
can't get
no
away
getting
from
away from
it.
it. You can have your hysterectomy when you're young and you don't have to worry about the kids anymore, but this is coming regardless. Um, and the sexual health is something that really doesn't get addressed from a doctor care standpoint.
Yeah.
So many times you hear, I remember years ago, I was talking to an OB and she said, well, tell your husband he has to start, if he wants sex on the weekend, he has to start dating you on Tuesday. I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, he needs to be bringing you flowers. He needs to be drawing you a bath. He needs to start wooing you on Tuesday. And I was like, okay, that's great. But if there's pain and like all these other things happening, he could bring me a diamond. It's not going to make a
Right.
difference physically. It's and it's not something that we can control. I think a
Yeah,
lot of men, including doctors, think that, well, if you really wanted to, you'd figure it out. When it's not the
exactly.
case, you don't hear the words vaginal atrophy and pelvic floor health and all these things. Yet I hear every woman I know has suffered in her libido or in her, you know, um, ability to enjoy sex with her partner. But that's something that still isn't talked about. You get a lot of the hot flashes and like the funny things that make people laugh, but
Yep.
not the nitty gritty. Like you said,
No.
no one wants to say the words.
Yeah, no one wants to say the words. How many women do you know? Now, you come from an open group, so that's phenomenal. But until you get super comfortable with a group of women, how many women go around and say the word vagina? Nobody. Not until you're like, and that's just it's a scientific term. It's not
Yeah.
like slang either. All the parts, do you ever say labia? No, nobody ever says that. But it is true. We are sort of labeled as, low libido. We just don't care anymore. We're married. Why do we have to care about it when it's not the
Hmm.
truth?
Yeah.
I would say majority of the cases, what you have is a woman who is embarrassed because it's either painful or there's no spark and they don't know how to get that spark. Um, or they're dry and so that's embarrassing. And while I applaud your friend's approach to the wooing and the dating, really what it looks like is more open communication and not being embarrassed to talk to your partner, and
Hmm.
then bringing in things like moisturizers and lubricants, dilators that are really self-help tools for you to get past that pain, but have your partner work with you on those.
Hmm.
Guaranteed, if there's a moisturizer or lubricant and you're asking him to help out with that, he's having a great time. He's like, sure, sign me up. What do we got to do? A dilator, he wouldn't know a dilator from a vibrator. So he'd be like, great, how do I do this for you? How do I help you?
Yeah.
And I think if women went and found these tools, understood how to use them, why to use them, the breath work. Scents are huge. Go into your
Hmm.
bedroom, the scent of rose, make it, have that in your room. So it helps kind of give you a little bit of a spark
Hmm.
and include your partner and think of it as play versus, um, I have an issue and I need you to help me. But also sexual wellness and sex itself doesn't necessarily have to mean penetration.
Yeah.
It could be, you could lie naked together and just cuddle. You could just
Hmm.
lightly touch each other and nothing happens, but that connection is
Yeah.
there. And that can help move you forward. But sex is one of those things that with women, where it's a use it or lose it. And no one tells us that either. And we're in pain. And there's things going on, we're embarrassed, incontinence, just everything that makes for a, real spicy night, not good.
Yeah.
And um, they it just if you don't, you start to lose it. That atrophy continues.
Hmm.
So unless you're getting that blood flow to your tissues constantly, like you'll work out, you'll work your biceps, your legs, your butt out, but you kind of got to work that out too. So
Hmm.
finding that way, and in the longevity, we've learned that the more pleasure that you have, the longer you can live. I mean, it's not the number one way that you're going to increase your longevity. It plays a part in it.
Hmm.
Um, so I do, though, I do applaud the dating. That would be very nice
Yeah.
if that's
As
all
if
it
that would,
took.
right? Or if it would ever happen.
Right.
So, speaking of the whole, libido and getting that spark, you have libido chocolate.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
two of the best things in the world.
It's true. When we started Tempesta and then we started the Dr. Kelfire line, very much I was very into herbs, apothecary, just creating things that could naturally work for you for your wellness. And chocolate, putting things in chocolate, adaptogens, mushrooms, herbs that can help you in some way. And, we put fenugreek, maca, ashwagandha, plus a few nutrients into chocolate, into a cacao, 60%. So it has a really good sweet taste to it. It tastes like chocolate. It's not like sawdust, but it gave you this effect. Now, I always tell people this is support. That this isn't like the magic pill. This is just to enhance your evening,
Hmm.
if you will. And indulging, I wanted it to feel like not, oh, I have to take a pill or we got to grab this cream, or I wanted it to be more of a playful thing. Like you can take this male and female, the three herbs work wonderfully for either sex, and you can make it part of your little ritual. Like we're going to have this chocolate, it's decadent and it's indulgent, and then it might, might make it a little spicy in here, and you can have fun. And that's how I came to have that. And I'll tell you, I went to I got a call from the largest adult store in Charleston area, and they had heard about the chocolate, and they said, would you mind stopping by and bringing a sample? This is something we're very interested in. And to be honest, I'd been in very few over my lifetime. And this was the Costco of adult toy stores. I walked in and I was just staring. And I didn't realize how many I mean, how many things there were out there. The razzle creams, this, that, and the other thing, but edibles like drinks, gums, candies that they had to help with your libido. They didn't have chocolate, so it worked really well for me. But there's just this movement now to bring some sort of fun and play into your sex life. And that is why I want to go with it. Plus, it's healthy for you.
And no one looks at you twice if you're popping a piece of chocolate in your mouth.
Nobody, nobody. We even, my marketing director, she's 30 years old, different breed of women these days than me. I'm 54. Definitely they're more forward, more,
Yeah.
taboo really doesn't, they don't care about taboo. Um, so we were going to film a little Instagram video with the chocolate, and she said, Kelly, why don't we melt this over strawberry? I mean, you can melt it. It's not going to ruin the ingredients. And I was like, no, it won't. And we melted the chocolate over strawberries and we are like, oh, that's a good date night thing. And I'm like, what
Yeah.
if you melted it on like, if you're into this, you could like melt it on your partner, or you could do all this stuff. And because she's coming up with all these ideas and I'm just sitting there with my mouth open going like, why didn't I think of that? That's
Yeah.
amazing. So it's fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
Okay.
strawberries were going to be shaved in over ice cream. We took a grater and we were just shaving the bar over the single serve over ice cream. And I thought, oh, that's nice.
No kidding. Huh. Okay. So now you've got me thinking. Um, Now you have the libido chocolate, which, is your best seller, I believe, but you also
Yeah.
have two others.
Yes, I have one for hormonal balance. It works well for perimenopause and menopause. It kind of came out of my brain for PMS, but that's exactly what we're doing. We're still going through the same symptoms, just amplified and some on a different level with night sweats and hot flashes. But it's, you know, couple things happen when you're cycling through at that point. You're craving things. A lot of times chocolate or something sweet. We all want that. But yet at the same time, we're cramping, we're miserable, we're sad, or we're angry. And I
Mhm.
thought, wow, what if you could, you know, attack that craving with something that's also going to help you and it's going to calm you down. It's going to make things a little bit easier and you don't feel guilty for snacking. And that's why I created that. And I remember the first day I had a 24-year-old graphic artist come in and she was just miserable. And it was her first day of work. And I said, well, here, I have one of the PMS. She had PMS or she had just gotten her period. And I said, here, why don't you try one of the chocolate? And I gave it to her and I kind of walked away. And then she came back. She goes, do you have more? And I said, well, you can't have more today. You've had your single serve, but here's a bar. You can. She's like, that really worked. And that has herbs in it too. So and then the third bar we have currently, and we have a few more we're going to come out with in 2026, but we have a chocolate mushroom bar, which has lion's mane, reishi, and it is typically people would take it for anxiety or stress. I definitely wouldn't say it's a sleep aid. I would say it's a calming. And we have actually sold quite a few. I thought it would go really well with the whole picture, the PMS, the anti-stress,
Mhm.
anxiety, and kind of a crashing libido. They seem to mesh really well together. Oddly enough, and I didn't think of this. We had so many parents recently, as Black Friday and Cyber Monday and finals are coming along, buying these bars for their children to get them through testing, through finals. And I
Okay.
thought, okay. So I sent a case to my son. No, just kidding. But I did send a couple of bars out.
None of the libido ones, though.
None of the libido ones. No, no. I did make we had a couple of the guys in the office that do work on the podcast, social media stuff, the website, and they're in their late 20s. And I said, guys, you gotta taste the chocolate to understand the chocolate, to speak on it. And they were so afraid to take the libido one. I'm like, I'm not asking you to take a full serving, and nothing is gonna happen. You're just gonna take a tiny little bite of it. And they did. But yeah, no, I'm not sending the libido out to my child. No.
So you said that like one square is a single serving and you only get
So
one a day?
the serving it looks like it's two little squares. You just break it off, and it's about 10 grams, which means nothing to anybody because I'm an ounces person, but it's 10 grams. So it's like having 1 ounce of dark chocolate. You know how they say you have 1 ounce of dark chocolate is all you're allowed to have, but you can have that, and it's 60 calories for your
Mhm.
serving. It's a quick, sweet treat, but it works great. Like I said, if you just want to incorporate it into your little ritual um, before spicy time, or if you're sitting there with a cup of tea and you're trying to unwind and you have the mushroom one, that goes really good. Do I wish we could eat like a Toblerone size? Yes, but we can't. Bad things would happen.
Okay, that was going to be my question. Like if someone were to buy a libido bar and just sit down and eat the whole thing.
Well, nothing bad would happen to him. It would be bad if they were eating a full bar every night.
Yeah.
But because they'd have to get those herbs to kind of build up in their system. If they sat down and really ate a full bar, may the force be with you on that one. But nothing, there's not going to be a bad reaction.
Okay, good. It just might be a really long night.
It could be a long
Gotcha.
night.
Gotcha. And because, I'm in Canada and, this will be seen everywhere, not just the US. Are you allowed to ship those things internationally or no, because they have the herbs in them?
So right now we're just United States, but
Okay.
we are looking to expand that and open up to Canada first in 2026. We are working around with the herbs and things like that, but we should be able to, and that's our goal because
Okay.
I mean Canada, there's it's huge,
Yeah.
and to not be able to work with Canada is crazy. But that is my goal and my hope is to be able to do that in 2026 with the chocolate.
Hmm. Good, good. I'm looking forward to it. You'll have to let me know when it comes out and available here because it
Oh, you just
sounds
send your address. I'll find a way to get it to you. Just send me your address.
UPS.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I know the tariffs won't affect it. I don't think the tariffs would affect it, so it
No.
should be okay. Anyways, so your wellness platform, you have a whole app that
Right. We
you use with your clients and people like that. So can you tell us about it?
So what will happen if you come to the Tempesta website, My Tempesta, you have a couple options when you get there. You will have the ability to schedule a telehealth visit with a medical provider, and they will go through your symptoms, and if necessary, they will prescribe you um, vaginal estrogen cream, a few hormonal treatments, but all prescription. And that gets relayed to a pharmacy and then gets shipped to you. So you don't even have to leave your house. And then they'll do follow-up. So you have the medical side where you can talk to a doctor and work on your symptoms there. Then you have the alternative side, which is where you would then be put into the app. So think like MyFitnessPal, any one
Hmm.
of your exercise apps that you have. It's all in one. And you will either work with me or one of my coaches. And then typically we also do a team effort as well. And you would go into the app and we do a full intake on you. And you'd have the ability to track your nutrition, track your fitness. We would load exercises in there for you to work on pelvic floor health and things of that nature, tons of education, and then a community that you could go into, and there'd be other women. We do prompt questions, we do videos. The goal is to help you in a non-medical way, which could be, again, adjunct with what you're doing with hormones, not contradicting each other. And giving women that support that they need on the fitness, nutrition, mindset, and more importantly, we focus in on GSM and low libido because we feel like that is where women really don't have a safe place to talk about or to embarrass. So we like to stay in that area.
Mhm.
Um, and then you have tiers where you can, sort of like self-pace your way, and we check in each week with you. We send a little check-in to find out what's going on and how we need to support you. Or you can have someone one-on-one with you the whole journey. And I really like that approach because you can do it from your home. You are not anonymous, but you're essentially anonymous,
Mhm.
and you don't have to worry about it. And that, and then again, from there, I might say, I'm going to put you in touch, go to Kelly Kinsley's website because I think this might be something good for you, or go over here and do Tantra, or try this or try that, not just trying to keep them with us, to say, we're here to support you. And if we can't give you the support, or if we think there's someone out there that can also be a part of your support, I like to have women get out there too.
Mhm. Very nice. And that's on your website. Is it also on the Play Store or anything like that?
It is on Google and on Apple. But you will go through mytempesta.com. That's where you will initiate the coaching, and then you'll get instructions to download either Google or Apple, whichever one you want. And then it's right on your phone, and you can communicate. And you have unlimited chat. So you can chat Monday through Friday. I mean, typically we're there Monday through Sunday, but we like to not set too high an expectation. Say, if it's on a Friday at 9 p.m., we may not get back to you to Monday, 9 a.m., but
Hmm.
I- that bothers me. If I know someone has sent a message in and it's sitting there, I'm just like, no, what if she's got an important question? I'll stop what I do on the weekend and go, no, I gotta talk to her.
Yeah.
I just wanted women to have a lifeline.
Hmm. Sounds amazing. It does. Um, and you have a podcast as well.
I do. I have a podcast. And like I said from the beginning, I was deathly afraid of public speaking. And for whatever reason, this happens to me all the time. Same thing with powerlifting and everything else I've done. I thought that would be so awesome. I don't want to do that. I'm going to do it. And so, because I kept thinking, it started with I was taking a pole fitness class. I've become such a big fan of it for women, just because they can express themselves with other women and really touch into that feminine side.
I
So
do
it was
pole
like,
fitness. Love
you
it.
do?
Oh
I
yeah.
love it. It's my
Yeah.
favorite thing in the world. I have
Yeah.
more heels than I know what to do with right now, and will never wear outside of that studio. But
Yeah.
it
I
was
have more
like
bruises than I know what to do with.
my shin right now is terrible, terrible. I was sitting, it was like the first couple of months, and I was sitting in this particular class this night. It was five women were sitting there, all in the same age group, from like 45 to 55. And we're all just sitting there, and one of them was having, how you get in, everybody's like, hi, how you doing? And one of them was like, it is not a good day. And she started talking about, hot flashes. And the next thing I know, the woman next to her is breaking down in tears because she's talking about how she had a hysterectomy, so she went into medical menopause surgery at age 40, and menopause
Mm.
hit all in one swoop, and she's crying, and then the next woman's telling her symptoms and she's upset. So now you got five women going, this happens to you too? And oh yeah, and then you start saying, all the things that you've suppressed and didn't want to say. And I found the story so compelling and so emotional that I thought, I want to do a podcast where women just come on and tell their stories. Going back to women love to tell their birth stories. And I
Hmm.
wanted a place where women could tell their menopause, perimenopause stories, and not feel judged. And a lot of these women wanted to talk about it so that another woman who might be going through something they're going through could hear it and know it's okay and know this is what we all go through. And that's how I started it. And then I started layering in women, um, experts that had different areas that, would be beneficial for women or that
Mhm.
women may never have heard of could help in that area. And so that's kind of where I've taken the podcast in that direction. But really, I just love when people come on and tell me their stories.
Yeah,
It's fascinating.
yeah. And what's the name of the podcast?
It's called the Kellfire Show. And so the whole Kellfire, Dr. Kellfire, right before I started fighting, well, right as I was training, I had my three young sons and we were playing Mortal Kombat together. They're like, Ma, you got to play Mortal Kombat. You have to create your character. And I was like, well, what am I going to call her? And I said, it'll be Kellfire. So that was like, we just laughed. My first fight, they said, well, we have to have a fight name for you. And I was like, I don't have a fight name. And then my son said, Kellfire. So that was the name I took when I fought. And then it kind of stuck with me. So the podcast, I'm like, we'll do that. Dr. Kellfire will be this character, this, you know, who sits in this herbologist and sits in her little apothecary and does stuff. So who knew Mortal Kombat? The things that happen in life that all of a sudden down the road you're like, who knew that was going to do this?
Yeah, no kidding, no kidding. So the podcast, where can they find it if they want to listen or watch?
Any of the major streaming channels, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. We do YouTube, and then we run stuff through social media so you can see it, but you can pick it up pretty much anywhere.
Okay, perfect. So speaking of social media, can you share how people can get in contact with you, your, website, social media handles?
Yes. So Tempesta's website is mytempesta.com. The Dr. Kellfire, where you can get the chocolate, you can find it on Amazon. You can also find it on drkellfire.com. And then all the social medias are the same as the websites. And then the Kellfire Show, you can go to thekellfireshow.com. You can find out all the social medias there and how to stream it. And then personally on Instagram, I leave my Instagram open. I just think it's an extension of everything I'm doing. And I love when people reach out. So it's I am Kellfire, the letter I, and then AM Kellfire. You can find me there, Facebook. And I love when people reach out. So, or send good memes, good jokes. I will repost them. I live for them. That's pretty much most of my feed is like jokes that I think are hysterical at 9 o'clock at night that really nobody else thinks is hysterical.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Same way. Yeah. I have one of those friends where our DMs are just memes
Yes,
every day.
absolutely. That's me and my sister. I have a sister that's 9 years younger than me, and that's all we do is send memes back and forth.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And before we
Thank you,
say
Kelly.
goodbye, I just want to remind everybody if you have enjoyed this, please reach out to Kelly and check out all of her website and her chocolates and all that good stuff. Make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, make a comment, all of that good stuff to help the algorithm so that more women who kick ass like this one can find us. So thank you so much for joining me. And I'm going to be messaging you with my address for that chocolate.
Yes, definitely do that. I'd love to send some.
All right. Thanks very much. See you
Thank
later.
you. Bye.